Are you struggling to make your aviaries look awesome and unique? I have 5 tips for building the best aviaries in Jurassic World Evolution 3. Unfortunately, the aviaries themselves are still very limited. Like, why is this the lowest we can dig down? But if we unleash some creativity, we can build something spectacular. Getting right into it with something inspired by Jurassic Park 3, an aviary built into the cliff. I like using a small or at least a skinny aviary for this. After placing it, grab the terrain tools and make sure the slope is set to max, and then raise the terrain on one side of the aviary to the same height of the dome or a little bit taller. Obviously, there's still a bit of distance between the raised terrain and the aviary, but we're gonna fill that with rocks. You're going to create a sharp cliff face that clips into what will be the back of the aviary. To bring the rocks all the way up to the top of the dome without wasting half of the interior space, we're going to grab flat rocks and arch it over the top. If you place a viewing gallery across from the cliff, you get a pretty cool backdrop, but it especially looks really awesome from the outside. To make it more natural, cover the top of your rocks with foliage so it blends with the terrain. This grass piece is really handy to make it look like the grass is growing over top. And you can add foliage to the cliff face itself as well to bring it to life. On this end, we're going to take it one step further and create an aviary cave by covering the entire dome, using the same technique to make the top of the cave look like natural terrain. This huge cave creates a really epic effect for your aviaries, and it doesn't interfere with the animals moving around. I have the first bonus tip of the video for you, and that is a trick to get your pterosaurs to sit on a rock. They used to do this in Jurassic World Evolution 2, but unfortunately in Jurassic World Evolution 3 they will only sit on the ground or on the perches. The trick is really simple. Just sink the small perch into a rock with a flat surface so the perch just disappears inside it. The pterosaurs will still recognize the perch and make use of it, but now they're sitting on the rock, which allows you to make much more natural looking aviaries. This is just a quick example that I made for the tutorial, but I hope it inspires you to build an awesome and detailed version of this. If this video does help you out, give it a like so YouTube will show it to more park builders struggling with the aviaries. Sticking with the Jurassic Park 3 inspiration, aviary walkways. You can create your own custom walkway and make it as complex and big as you want, but I've built a really simple version just to showcase the idea, and for your convenience, you can download this build from the workshop. After you've built a skinny aviary, you can slide the walkway right through, and you want to line up this angled piece with the glass. If you want to have it cross a bigger aviary, just split the build in two and copy some extra walkway pieces to bridge the gap, and then maybe build something like a simple rock island underneath for some much needed support. You can also build your walkway on the ground and then use the gates of the tours as the entry point. To do this, after building your aviary, quickly run a tour through, and the only thing to think about here is where you want the gates to be, because that's all we're going to keep. I'm putting them straight across from each other so I can reuse the walkway that I already built. With the gates in place, delete the tour building and the track, and the gates will remain. Then I'm gonna grab my walkway and separate the walkway itself from the entrance buildings by splitting it from the group. Now I can place it on the ground to connect the two gates. If you're gonna use my walkway pieces for this, you do have to build like a little bit of a connection point between the gates and the walkway because the gates are wider. But you can of course build a simple, wider walkway that already fits the gates, and instead of going straight across, you can add bends as well. While guests still can't make use of this, you can in first person mode, because the gates will open up for you and it gives a really awesome and different experience of the aviary. Something else I built for this video is the Pteratops Lodge. Well, I tried anyway. This was very much outside of my skill range and I had to accept that. And also, I couldn't tell how guests were supposed to access the building, so I added an elevator shaft that you can line up with a viewing dome, but you could also build a walkway to clip through the aviary dome to access the lodge. While it's not super accurate, I think it's still a pretty cool build to have tucked into your bigger aviary somewhere. I built it as part of this tip to show you that when building your aviaries, don't just limit yourself to natural elements to spruce it up, you can add structures inside your aviaries as well, and not just walkways. Check out my workshop for this blueprint and many more that I hope you will find useful in your park builds. One blueprint in particular is the star of the next tip. A bridge over top of the aviary. When I made this bridge, this is not at all what I had in mind, but then when it came to making this video and I had to make a bridge, I thought, does this bridge fit over top? And yes it does. It's not quite perfect, but it's pretty close. In just 2 minutes, I've made some adjustments to the bridge to make it even more epic over top of the aviary by adding glass flooring and moving the supportive arches outward just a little bit to free up the view directly below. I think this looks awesome, and if this was a real thing, it would be one of the most impressive ways to view your flying reptiles, seeing them soar beneath your feet. You can make a custom bridge and make it a bit bigger so it actually reaches the terrain on either side, or make a bridge big enough to cross over multiple aviary domes, but I just went with reusing the bridge I already had and then adding some rocky outcroppings, because my philosophy is that there's no problem that a couple of well-placed rocks can't fix. I've been making my blueprints with the idea that people can easily tweak them to suit their own needs, but to save you some time, I've made this specific aviary bridge available on the workshop. I've made it with the dynamic rocks, so it's always going to suit the biome you are building in. I really don't want to keep spamming the workshop with modifications of this one bridge, but this thing is just so versatile and easy to work with. If you want to recreate this, all you have to do is download the aviary bridge modification from the workshop. Place your aviary, raise up the terrain, and then drop in the blueprint. I will be starting my sandbox build series very soon, I promise, but I used some of the tricks in this video in the very first episode, so that's why I wanted to get this tips video out first, but subscribe if you're interested in the full park I'll be building. Next tip is the return of the aviary domes. This is something I've also done in Jurassic World Evolution 2, but it works so much better in the new game thanks to all the modular pieces. I think the biodome has the greatest visual effect if you build it in the desert map and then make the interior look like alpine or taiga, or vice versa. You're just gonna get the best contrast of biomes that way and really sell the illusion. I'm going to build my example in the desert biome, and the first step is to paint the interior of the aviary, in this case with the grass texture, leaving the outside sandy and barren. Obviously, we're going to use the coniferous trees, but if we really want to sell the illusion, we're going to add snow. To do this, we're going to grab some floor pieces. I prefer the chukum or the concrete, which has a bit of a texture to it. Of course, we're gonna recolor it white and then cover a large area within the aviary. This doesn't interfere with the animals moving around inside the aviary, so don't worry about that. Once you've covered a large surface, raise the terrain just a teeny tiny bit and then flatten to that level along the edge of your snowy patch to give it a natural border. To further blend it in, add some shrubbery using the foliage brush. Next is to put in some rocks. I like using the gray rocks from the temperate set. Just put those around randomly in a way that looks nice and natural. Finally, as said earlier, you're gonna add biome appropriate trees to really sell the illusion that we're not on a desert map right now. With these steps, you've created a pretty convincing biodome, and you can use this for your flying reptiles, but you can also put dinosaurs in here that might prefer a frosty environment. To learn how to put dinosaurs into the aviary and other game-changing glitches, check out this video linked at the top. Now it's time for the second bonus tip. To get dinosaurs into the aviary, you need to use a glitch, which I explain in that video I mentioned. To get pterosaurs out of the aviary and flying free, no glitches are needed. So many people don't know this, and it might actually shock you to know that this was already in Jurassic World Evolution 2. It's a standard feature. Anyway, when your pterosaurs are ready to release from the hatchery, don't click release. Click the option below. Then you can drop your pterosaurs wherever you want, including out in the open. If you want your pterosaurs to nest in the wild, you do need to jailbreak the aviary nest because it has to be placed inside an aviary dome. Super simple trick though. Place the dome wherever you want your nest to end up, then place a nest inside, And finally, delete the dome. The nest will remain. It's that simple. And now your free flying reptiles can be part of your Site B wild ecosystem builds. If my videos get you excited for the game and you finally want to buy it, get it using my link in the description box. It helps out the channel. My final tip for the aviaries is to incorporate waterfalls. First, as a backdrop. Raise up the terrain directly behind the aviary, getting as close as possible. Then raise the terrain inside the aviary as high as possible. Next, with the water brush, we're going to paint in our waterfalls. Just add it 1 layer at a time, 3 layers in total. Then when you place a viewing gallery across from that, you get this epic waterfall behind the aviary, and with the smaller waterfall in front, it feels connected. To add to that illusion, I just placed these simple vent builds that I made to pretend that there's an opening in the solid aviary wall. If you build your aviary on the edge of a cliff, you can also have an epic waterfall pouring out of the aviary. Just get the water inside to the very edge, and then place your water down below to connect the two. Again, these vents hide that the water has to come through solid concrete. I've done something similar for the lagoons, and I think it looks awesome. Check out my video with 5 tips for the best lagoons if you haven't already. You might have already seen it though, because it is a very popular video. If so, I have more tip videos on the channel that maybe you did miss, so click on through. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.